And Minister, my constituency office is also across from the courthouse in Waterford, and I'd reflect exactly what the other deputy has referenced here about that. It's terrible to see the amount of young people involved with the courts. Minister, it's possibly a fact that people in our general community feel vulnerable and unsafe at times, particularly when outside their homes. But I can tell you it is a certain fact that people who live in disadvantaged areas certainly feel vulnerable for themselves and their children, whether inside or outside their homes. Because of the issues of gangs, antisocial behaviour, drugs and substance abuse, and the danger of them or their children being coerced or exposed to criminality and low-level and mid-level crime. And we know that disadvantage leads to further disadvantage, a lack of education, a lack of role models, a lack of employment, no career choice, and ongoing disadvantage will be repeated in the family cycle, most likely. So the strategy that you're talking about proposed to lead to the involvement of community and built around that. But I'd ask you, how do you get youth and chaotic parenting to engage, Minister? School clubs and school breakfast clubs and school dinners, I think, need to be resourced in every part of the country. I've had some experience of these in the past, and they do tremendous work in terms of offering, if children are going to school hungry, you have no chance of teaching them. And furthermore, they feel deprived when they compare themselves to the other children in their school. And the teachers certainly want to support this, but I know in my own area of a school club which was getting very little resourcing other than private monies put into it. GAA and local sports clubs and community clubs are an absolute must, Minister, and certainly in the sports grants allocation that you're now considering, certainly the low-level communities must be considered within that, those that are poorly funded. I welcome the initiative of the Local Community Safety Partnership, and I hope that Mr Sean Aylward, the past Secretary-General of the Department of Justice, is leading that out in Waterford, and I wish him the very best of luck with it. But I spoke in the House recently, Minister, on the resources to our Gardaí, and I mentioned that in Waterford, the new divisional headquarters, the officers haven't even got room, they haven't even got locker room to put their bags into, to change their clothes. The monitoring room down there that serves 10 counties for all 999 emergency calls, and they're sitting cheek by jowl in rooms with barely windows or ventilation. It is ridiculous when you look at that. They are presently under-resourced, 16 full-time Garda resources, and no sergeants yet promoted, even though they have been allocated in the past 2 years. These are something that needs attention immediately, Minister. We need a new drug strategy, how to tackle the drug barons, the mules and the dealers. And we need again to see how CAB is engaging at this level. And we need community intelligence. And you won't develop that without getting the community involved with community policing. And that requires the building up of trust. So how does a community-based organisation, allied with public services, support and engage with families who have little trust? And I think you need to build a bridge, Minister, between local welfare officers and the Gardaí. And I'm not sure what communication goes on there, but in my experience, very little. We need to build community trust that builds development for the citizens of that community, and we need early intervention and targeting of vulnerable families and young children by support services of the state, but also to have a coordinated vision between the voluntary support services. And I won't tell you about a case in Waterford, but I'll just outline where volunteers were going into a family in Waterford where there was incredible hardship and distress among small kids. And they were trying to engage with TUSLA, and they were told that they couldn't engage with TUSLA, that TUSLA were engaged, and yet they were going in week after week and seeing no remediation of the situation going on in there. That is not acceptable any longer, Minister. And if this initiative is to work, this is something that you have to have a look at. We need Garda resources, as I said, involved in crime, and we need criminals properly profiled. And if the intelligence is there, that can be done if the resourcing is there. We also need to start with a zero-tolerance approach to antisocial behaviour and vandalism. And whether that's caused by those living in disadvantage or students attending third level, there's no difference in my mind. It is they are equally culpable in this note. And we need evidence of success being possible for disadvantaged communities. And I would ask you, Minister, to look at the investment in capital initiatives, the investment in maintaining the public realms in disadvantaged areas. And I would also talk to you about, we need education. And certainly we need to bring role models in to talk to young people about the poverty trap of unplanned pregnancy, and to try and give them a different model in order to see where their future might lie. We need a social welfare answer also to fathers who refuse to pay child support. And Minister, before I entered politics in Waterford, I brought up the issue, and maybe you'd come back to me on this. At the time, it was my understanding that there was no obligation for fathers to be noted on a birth cert, and that therefore, if they weren't noted, there was no way for social welfare to track them. So you might please come back to me and let me know, has that situation been rectified? In Australia at the time, if you didn't register a father on the birth cert, you got 30% less family income. And that made sure that there was a father, and that made sure that the state knew where to go to get family payments. In conclusion, Minister, we need resources with funding streams guaranteed so that future planning can be assured, and we need buy-in to deliver on the plan from all public bodies and agencies. So I hope this new youth strategy that your Planning Minister is going to provide the answer. And hopefully this House will not have to wait too long before we advise whether it is having an impact on the ground or not.
Thank you.